Katara ends Avatar: The Last Airbender in a relationship with Aang. Whether this relationship will last was a major topic of discussion in the Avatar: The Last Airbender community from 2008, when Avatar aired its final episode, and 2012, when Avatar's sequel series, The Legend of Korra, aired its first episode and confirmed that yes, Aang and Katara did make it. They got married and they had 3 kids. This was a huge moment of relief for Kataang fans and a moment of disappointment for a lot of us who weren't as satisfied with that pairing. One of those kids, Tenzin, is now middle-aged by the events of The Legend of Korra and serves as the mentor to Korra, that show's protagonist. While Tenzin is probably my favorite character in The Legend of Korra, other than Korra herself, and while I like how he is a more realistically flawed mentor who has to overcome his own failings instead of a perfect, wise old man like Iroh who's already gone through his character growth, it's interesting to think about what would happen if Aang and Katara broke up. What would be the after effects of that? How would Aang react? How would Katara react? What would this lead to, and what would it say about them as characters? Let us investigate. The lead-up to Kataang is a bit shaky, if you ask me. Aang is in love with Katara from the very start of the show. There is no denying that. He falls in love with her as soon as he sees her. He adores looking at her. We see how he idealizes her in episode 114, The Fortune Teller, and he's so caught up in the idea of being in a relationship with her that when, in episode 202, The Cave of Two Lovers, he actually has the opportunity to kiss her and demonstrate his affections for her, he flounders that opportunity. And instead he looks like an awkward, stumbling fool. This is kind of adorable, I must admit, but while he continues to obsess over her throughout the course of the series, there is little indication that these affections are mutual. It's clear she deeply cares about him, and the episodes that honestly depict the tenderness in that relationship, without cliche or banality, like episode 212, The Serpent's Pass, are some of my favorite of the show. However, despite all this, I really never got the sense that she was interested in him romantically, except when the writers needed her to be. More importantly, I was never excited by the idea of the two of them becoming a romantic couple, because the attraction between them was so asymmetric. And the show's constant attempts to excite me in this couple accomplished very little. Now, it would be one thing if Katara just never expressed how she felt toward Aang until their final climactic kiss at the end of the show. Now, if that happened, it would still be a little baffling and unnecessary, but at least the emotional through line would be clear enough. Here, however, it's confusing. Here, however, it doesn't register emotionally because Katara makes it clear multiple times throughout the show that she does not have a deep, burning interest in being in a romantic relationship with him. In episode 114, The Fortune Teller, Katara says that she thinks of Aang like she thinks of Momo, as a sweet little friend, but nothing more. You could say, in defense of this pairing, that her feelings toward him change from this point to the end of the show, and that is certainly the writer's intention, but in episode 317, The Ember Island Players, Katara again demonstrates that she does not want to be in this relationship. She's confused about her feelings toward Aang, and when he kisses her, she berates him for not respecting the boundaries she has set. They have very few conversations, or at least very few conversations that we, the audience, see from now until the end of the show, and in one of these conversations, Aang is yelling at Katara that she does not understand his struggle in wanting to end the war without killing the Fire Lord. And while I understand his point, he does not exactly make the best case for himself, just screaming at her without considering what she's going through. A few episodes of the show seem to serve no purpose other than to allow the writers and showrunners to make a case for this pairing. There is one in every season. In Season 1, it's the Fortune Teller. In Season 2, it's the Cave of Two Lovers. In Season 3, it's the Headband. These aren't the worst episodes in the world, and aside from the Great Divide and Bato of the Water Tribe, Avatar doesn't really have any bad episodes, but these episodes do stand out for being kind of unnecessary. They're not nearly as well written and cohesive, and for lack of a better word, they don't have as much of a point as a lot of other episodes of this show. And even despite the constant promotion of this pairing, I have a hard time accepting it when Katara's feelings are, in the text, so clearly ambivalent. Including in the last time they discussed this relationship before the final kiss. This relationship looks like one that's built up to fall apart. Even if you are more positive on this relationship than me, the odds of it lasting long term are low. How many of you are still dating the people you liked in middle school? If you are, good for you, but it's a low, low percentage. The rest of us spend our teens and 20s just wandering around, not really knowing what tomorrow brings, but kind of reveling in the excitement of that not knowing. Just going around, trying new things, expanding your boundaries, looking into new horizons. Obviously, for a show, it's a little different. We, as the audience, want the characters to end up with other characters they knew in the time of their life that's depicted in the show. So if they're kids and teens, they end up with the people they were interested in as kids and teens. This is kind of silly, but I understand it, and it makes for a more immediately satisfying experience for the audience. I don't hate that they do this in Avatar. It's certainly not enough of a problem for me to fully explain my frustrations about the pairing of Katara and Aang. I mean, I love the Katara and Zuko pairing, and they're still teens when they first meet, but the difference is that they play a part in each other's growth. They play a part in each other's coming of age. They affect and expand how each other sees the world. The relationship gradually helps them realize that they were wrong not only about each other, but also about themselves and their perspectives on the world. Katara understands that Zuko is not a monster, and Zuko understands that Katara, despite how she started the show hating him, is now someone he can depend upon, someone he can rely upon. He does not have to carry his burdens alone or only with the help of Iroh. Katara's relationship with Aang is much different. I admit I'd be a lot less antagonistic about this pairing if there were any real moment where Aang has to understand that he was wrong about Katara, that the image he has of her does not fit reality. That is just a product of his myopic, unworldly, childlike expectations. If he understood this, accepted it, and tried to understand the fullness of Katara as a person, I would have no real problem with this relationship. It still wouldn't be great, but it would work for me. It would show signs of growth and maturity. This relationship would have a reason for existing other than to just please those who want to see Aang get with the girl he fell in love with at first sight. As is, it's just a kid getting what he wants without having to learn anything, and that's a recipe for disaster later down the line. It's not Aang's fault, and it really isn't Katara's either. How would Aang react to their breaking up? Now, in a previous video, I discussed how Aang would react if Zutara happened. Though I doubt he would be as explosive in the case of Katara just breaking up with him. Especially if he's a little more mature, and this is years after the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I doubt he would be happy. I mean, I wouldn't be happy if I were him. He would be despondent and confused. When has Aang ever had to seriously reconsider the philosophical stances he holds? True, in Season 1, he has to grow to accept the role of being the Avatar, but that's less a matter of his idea of what he should do changing, and more a case of him just finally getting up the strength to do what he knows he should do. Ever since he embraces the role of the hero, his story tends toward success. True, he has to make a few reconsiderations, such as when he's at the Northern Air Temple in episode 117, and he has to accept the presence of Teo, the Mechanist, and that group of refugees, but mostly his worldview holds strong. He becomes distraught when he loses Appa, and he does a lot of terrible things, like destroying Sandbender's vessels out of rage and leaving Team Avatar to die in the desert. But this is more an expression of grief and anger than a philosophical viewpoint, and he knows that it's not his fault he lost Appa. And though at the end of Season 2 he wrongly blames himself for the victory of the Fire Nation in Ba Sing Se, and he does take rash actions because of this, like charging into the Fire Nation and disrupting the plan the rest of Team Avatar had been making. Despite all this, he doesn't face any permanent negative consequences for his lapses in judgment. Sure, he almost dies in episode 301, and the lesson is supposed to be that no, he can't win this war by himself, and he needs to depend upon the other members of Team Avatar, but how the final fight against Ozai plays out in the text kind of diminishes this. He is alone when he defeats the Fire Lord. It is a one-on-one match. Sure, he has indirect help from the other members of Team Avatar, like Sokka and Suki and Toph destroying the airships, but that doesn't affect the real dynamics of the fight itself. It's mano a mano, one-on-one. If Katara breaks up with him, he would have to learn for the first time that, hey, maybe things aren't destined to go his way. Maybe his heroic fantasies don't have to come true. He will have to mature in his understanding of the world instead of considering himself the exception, the one who changes things while only everyone else has to learn. As for Katara, I don't think she would start seeing Zuko, or really anyone else, immediately after the breakup. Now, my preference would be for her and Zuko to be together. They have this profound ability to understand each other's longings and fears and anxieties. But whatever happens in the distant future, Katara should take time to herself. She should take time to take care of herself and think about what she wants to do with her life, and she should travel the world. After spending so much time taking care of others, she deserves the chance to take care of herself. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is a brilliant, clever, insightful, evocative show, and it gives you this very rich and vivid world where you can imagine so many possibilities. I've made a lot of what-if videos about Avatar, and that's because the world is so lush that you have the space to imagine a lot of other scenarios occurring. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. I promise you that. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.